Welcome to Choose the Nickel. I'm your host, George Bailey. My co-founder and technical support is the gorgeous Christina Bailey. This podcast is about giving kids financial freedom. We're interviewing fascinating people for their insights about how children learn to be financially savvy. Our guests come from diverse, sometimes conflicting schools of thought, and we love the opportunity to learn from them. We encourage all to weigh our guests' ideas on how to help children thrive, both financially and in general. We invite you to visit our website at www.choosethenickel.com, subscribe to our newsletter, and try out the things we are learning on the podcast. Our next guest is author and motivational speaker Loren Michaels Harris. Mr. Harris, a survivor of the foster care system and an adoptee, strives to share the combined learnings of his time within the foster care system and his life experiences with those seeking insight into how to accomplish the most out of their lives. Loren specializes in working with middle school through high school youth and correctional systems, but the depth and variety of his topics resonate with a much broader audience. He draws upon his upbringing, which includes 22 mothers in total, and his original music to motivate and inspire others in overcoming their obstacles to success and achieving the life they want. Ladies and gentlemen, Loren Michaels Harris. Loren Michaels Harris, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks. Glad to be here.
What are your favorite professional accomplishments?
As far as personal accomplishments, I would say the fact that I get to live within purpose today, and that is to share my message in a way that helps other people find their way into the arms of purpose. And then also that with that same mindset, it allows me to at least attempt to leave every situation I encounter in life just a little bit better than the way I found it.
That's great that you get to do that to change lives. I have heard you speak. Terrific speaker. Can you tell me from your childhood, when you look back on how you grew up, what would you attribute your current success to? Some of the experiences you had as a kid.
I would say that the primary gift, as I would put it, from the experiences of my childhood, which was primarily navigating my way through the foster system over 22 homes. The gift would be the knowing within every part of my spirit that there is something greater than me, that the best things in my life are those things that come through me, not necessarily those things that come from me. And there is a difference. I was able to, because I really had no other choice as a kid, I was able to learn how to navigate by really listening to the actions of people rather than simply the words of people. In other words, I watch feet more than I watch mouth.
Wow.
You know, what people do.
That is very awesome. I mean, do you have any experiences that you had as a kid that helped you to be able to build that skill?
Oh, absolutely. My first job as a kid was at around 9 years old, right before my adoptive mother passed away the summer before. And I was a Shackley distributor, believe it or not, and I sold spices door to door to women in my neighborhood and a couple blocks beyond, because I had a bake sale business in the summer. And they liked all of my flavors in my cupcakes and cookies, and they started asking me how I got what I got, how I accomplished it, and I would tell them I had a secret spice company that I would order from. And so one thing led into another, and I started selling Shackley right around 9 years old, which gave me my first experience of being my own business person.
How many times did you have this experience of customers asking you about your spice secrets before it hit you that you had a business idea?
It took about 2 weeks. Once people had ordered at least twice, I knew I was onto something. And, you know, I was a little kid with an afro. And, yeah, and people, and, you know, people seem to take a liking to the fact that, wow, you bake your own goods and, you have your own recipes because everything was made from scratch. It didn't take long at all. The best part about that for me was learning right then and there how important it is in anything successful to build a nice relationship. Even more so than having a great product or service, having that fundamental relationship with people was the best part, and today still is.
What relationships with your customers then jump out to you as having been particularly meaningful?
The best part, I remember, was how they helped me become more successful, because it wasn't just about the things that they loved or liked and that brought them back to me time and time again. I also would ask them how I could improve. And they really appreciated that I would solicit their opinion about how I could make what they said was good even better. That was when they'd say, come on in and let's sit down and, offer me something to drink and want to find out more about me. I loved the way that felt. I mean, who doesn't like to talk about themselves, right?
Yeah. Do you remember specific people?
Oh, not actually names, but I do remember there was a neighbor lady named Mrs. Moody, who today, even though she's passed on, I remember she was a great cook, and she was from the South, and she was almost like a Paula Deen, which we didn't have Paula Deen then, but she really sat down and talked to me about how you make food with love, because she was a specialist when it came to comfort food.
Yeah.
And I remember that she actually used that terminology, and I didn't have a clue what it meant. But she sat down and she explained about how important it was to have her family around the family table, and how that was where they would talk about each other's lives and really have that dialogue, which is a thing today. I'm glad I have a grasp of, because a lot of families miss out on that, eating separately, and it's just not like, remember when families used to sit down for dinner at 6:00 every night, with no television and that sort of thing. Nowadays, you see a lot of people sitting across from each other and everybody's on their device.
Yep.
So her name was Belle, just like a Southern belle, and Belle Moody. And Belle Moody taught me about how important it was to create an opportunity and experience when serving food to the people you care about. I did end up in my adulthood with my own event planning firm, which had a catering division, and I never forgot what she told me about creating an experience where people can sit and have great dialogue. So thank you. Hats off to Belle Moody.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. And what's very inspiring about that is that it's not as if it's only isolated to food. I think that every service, every product is most successful when it is tied to a positive experience, and how awesome that you as a kid got to learn that. But one thing that really jumps out to me about your childhood is you said that you had been in and out of 22 foster homes or something like that?
Sure. Yeah. It was a combination of foster homes, and then as you get older, approaching your teenage or early teen years, it's harder to place you. At least it was then. From 14 on, it was pretty much in what is known as congregate care, or most people would identify that as group homes.
Yes.
So, but either way you slice it, within the system, sure.
And how did you manage during that time to have the fortitude to be able to go out and sell, when I think the temptation would have been, maybe self-pity? I mean, that's a very hard thing to go through. How did you do that?
Well, when you're in that situation, and not all the homes were bad, but, there was the fair share, of course. The thing I liked about being a kid who had an entrepreneurial mindset, because, in junior high school, I got involved in junior achievement and competed, and was actually awarded the position one year. I was outstanding young businessman one year, and it just really was a place where I could go and I could put myself within purpose, something that I was naturally gifted at. You need those things when you're a child of the system, a product of the system, because there's not always those people that care about, encouraging you or uplifting you, telling you great things about yourself like you would get in a traditional parenting situation. So I got a lot of that stuff from my customers in the way of, great reviews and, just appreciation for a job well done. That's why I loved it. It was a place where I could always go and feel like I had a purpose in this world. And I think that's something that every kid desires.
That is wonderful. I want to ask you now about an event that you have coming up. It's called the Power of We Symposium in Chicago. Tell me a little bit about that event and perhaps, any ways that it ties back to some of the themes that we've been hitting on, but I would love to hear more.
Well, the Power of We Symposium is more than an event. It is primarily an experience. It's an experience, a one of a kind, a first, where 250 kids from the inner city areas of Chicago, who deal with all types of hurdles and obstacles that most of us could never even fathom, let alone successfully navigate. I'm bringing them in for one unforgettable history-making day under one roof for an experience like none other. It is at the Stan Mansion, which was a mansion erected in 1920 with a lot of history. It's absolutely gorgeous, complete with, as soon as they come through the wrought iron gates that morning, they will step directly from the sidewalk outside of the gates onto a red carpet, where at the end of that red carpet, they'll be greeted by interviewers for Facebook Lives, paparazzi, lots of photos, people supporting and clapping and welcoming them to the day, basically to give them from the very beginning a feeling of being special, unlike any they have ever had. I'm a firm believer that we all remember and cherish those things and times and experiences in our lives that fall into the category of being a first. We always remember our first. And so I wanted to make this experience not just a first for the kids, those 250 inner city youth leaders, but also for everyone else. So from the very beginning, I build this experience as all of us participating in the writing of a new version of the old children's story, Stone Soup, where if you remember, everyone had the opportunity in the town to bring whatever that one item they had was. Oftentimes, we don't really understand how much we have to offer. We diminish it. We, don't understand how, when we're trying to do things separately, it can be really difficult. But when we combine our energy, when we combine our gifts and our mindset of contribution to the goodwill of others, great things can happen because immediately the power of we is increased. And it is a power. It is an energy as well as a mindset. So I wanted the speakers, and there's 12 of us all combined, 12 speakers from all over the country, each speaker coming with their own unique superpower in the form of a 20-minute presentation. Now, not just walking across the stage and talking at an audience, but bringing the experience into a texturized manner. Almost like the difference between a regular movie and a 3D movie, when you put on those glasses and suddenly you're a part of the experience. They're coming with those superpowers, like I mentioned, which are the one topic or title or power word that they each found themselves reaching for time and time again, from the time they were a kid, like the ones in the audience or younger, up into, today. This is what they say was solely responsible or had a great hand in bringing them to the life of service that they live today. And so even the vendors and the sponsors, everybody has a story. And this is a day where we can all come together in fellowship, because I look today in my life for where the promises of the Creator can be in direct alignment with my purpose. And one of those promises is that we're guaranteed where two like-minded people or more come together, great things can then happen. And so September 20th, the Stan Mansion in the historical neighborhood known as Logan Square in Chicago this is exactly what's going to happen. Everyone under that roof that day is bringing their story, not just the bad, not just the ugly, but primarily all that has come as a result of it, because I don't believe in mistakes. I believe that everything that happens is purposeful and is in its own way is a victory in the making. But we need to be reminded sometimes, and that can only happen by sharing our stories with each other, of how important it is to never forget that nothing happens on accident, that everything that we've been made to live immediately establishes each and every one of us as an authority, which means we now have something that we can show others how to grow through and benefit from. And so it is a day where everyone there is a mentor, just as everyone there is the mentee. We are never too old to learn, and we're never too young to teach. And that's why this is a modern day Stone Soup story. It would not be here. There would be no Power of We had it not been from each person who has helped contribute one by one, each bringing that one thing that they had, so that we could all come together and experience this one-of-a-kind opportunity.
I have never thought about the Stone Soup story in that particular fashion. I've read it a few times to my children, and I like your take, this idea that we all bring something, and when we all put that one thing that we bring together, we create something really wonderful. It's almost kind of like markets, where, you bring your talent, that thing that you're really good at, and the more we combine those skills, we come up with incredible discoveries about what we can do. When, as a child, did you discover that one thing that you were good at, that one thing that you could articulate, that you bring to the soup?
Oh, well, I knew it before I knew it was a positive. I knew it was there and it wasn't going anywhere, but I was that kid that would always finish his work first in the classroom. And, so I'd start talking. So that very talent of being the talker, which would, in a lot of cases, I would end up in the hallway so that I wouldn't disturb the rest of the class while they were finishing their work, is now today that road of purpose that allows me to see to the left, which is every moment of life that I've had to live, and see the purpose within it. And then it allows me to look to the right, towards the life that I want to live, that is still on the way, around the corner, known as the future, and see the purpose even in it. Because when we see purpose and we understand it, because we're living within the arms of it, we begin each and every experience from a place of gratitude. And when you can see gratitude, you can understand about blessings. But blessings are just like everything else in this world, in this universe, based on duality. So where there is a blessing, there is also an opportunity to then become that very blessing for someone, for something else. And so it's just a wonderful, wonderful full circle knowingness is the best way I can put it. When you get to that place where you don't have regrets, you have done the forgiving that is necessary, you have released, you do understand that every great journey requires at least a few pieces of baggage. But you also know that within your own purpose, there is no room for baggage that does not have your name on it. So that's how you get to the point where you must forgive, or you'll never leave the airport of life and move forward into the arms of your own destiny. Because you can never get out of that airport of life if you don't have the claim stubs for all of the luggage you're dragging behind you. So it forces you to leave those bags behind that don't have your name on it. So it's just a wonderful exponential pay it forward, ripple effect, domino effect, boomerang effect, where everything you put out has finally come home, and it comes home with its arms full of answers to replace all those questions that keep so many of us from living within purpose. I believe that every legend ever in time, in existence, they became a legend and they lived a legendary life by not living not one moment of accidental thinking. And so it's important to understand that you are enough just the way you are, and that everything you've lived makes you an authority. And that in and of itself, if you use it from a place of service to others, is the greatest gift you could ever have.
This idea of bringing all of these kids together at the Power of We Symposium and giving them that recognition, that moment of like, hey, this is an event, this is an experience, and we want to recognize that thing that you bring to the table. How much of that is reflective of your own experience as a child of being recognized by each of your customers and clients, as it were, for the skill that you brought to the table? How much of this stems from that experience?
100% of it. 100% of it. And not just, I want to put this and make sure that people understand, it wasn't just from the clients, because the relationships that I had with the clients, I was able to form with clients, really stemmed with the relationships that led to those clients. Relationships with caseworkers, relationships with my biological family. Well, at that point, it was my adoptive family, because I didn't meet my biological family until I was in my 30s. But every person that I had met up to that point in my life contributed because of purpose, and there being no mistakes in anything, everything having a number, everything having its place. It is because of that I was able to understand it when it was then able to help me understand what I needed. And that was that I did have something to bring to the table. I was worthy, because you have to understand there were many things in that lifetime, that season of my life, that were screaming to me the opposite. But the thing about the truth is two things. It will always have a ring to it. So if you're listening and looking and seeking it, you will find it. You will hear it. But also, it was just the kind of thing that will always, it has always been and will always be there for each of us. Because the truth never changes. The truth is the only thing in the universe that does never change, and it will never change on us. So when you are able to identify the truths about yourself and understand and acknowledge and allow others' truths to just be that without trying to change them, you will find that it's a much more simplistic road to understanding how we all belong, and that how we are all more similar than we are different. And that changes everything.
As parents and mentors strive to teach their children the lessons that you are trying to teach these kids, what advice do you have for those parents and mentors?
It's all about the kids today. The number one need on their list is respect. They want respect. They want to be respected. And that is how they, in kind, give respect to others. And, if respect is about listening, yes, but it's more so about hearing, truly hearing, because you can listen and it can go in one ear and out the other, but when you hear something, you allow it to resonate, you allow it to permeate, and you allow yourself to consider whatever it is from every direction, top to bottom, bottom to top, side to side, and corner to corner. And when we do that, that respect that we have shown people is sometimes the gentle nudge that they need to trust. And when our kids trust, they hold no secrets. And that's what a lot of us need to do as adults, is to remove that need for secrets, which can only be beneficial if, when removed, we then sit right down and we have those much needed discussions, dialogue, that sharing of ideas, fears, joys, concerns. And that's it, basically.
Earlier, you mentioned Belle Moody. Did she earn that trust from you? Did she give you that respect?
She did. She did. Because the thing that stands out most from my experiences with her on a business level, because, she lived a few doors down from us and I played with her kids all the time. But she always found a way to point to all of the things that she loved about what you were doing first. And then I remember she would always ask my permission to give me constructive criticism. Do you mind if I tell you how you could possibly make this better? She didn't sit down, or she didn't talk down and say, well, you should change this, or this isn't that. Or she always gave me the choice to decide whether what she was saying was for me or not. And I loved that because she spoke with me. She didn't talk at me. And that was all the difference in the world.
Loren, that is powerful stuff. And you've got some very powerful ideas that I want to wish you well with as you go into the symposium. I'm going to include the details in the show notes so that anybody who wants to go can go. I think that you're doing a wonderful thing. One last question for you. One last question. And that is, what is your favorite charitable cause?
That's a great question. My favorite charitable cause is being anointed, being naturally designed and wired to care about the needs of others first. I know that's not a 501 nonprofit, or anything like that, but it is charitable because it is of a giving nature, and it is a cause, because that in and of itself is one of the most important things that we can accomplish within our lifetime. And, I truly am, I couldn't have anything or want anything more in my life if it were not for the knowing of how special it is and what an honor it is to be able to get to a place where you can be of service to others and that they will trust you with things that matter, things that truly matter. Like every child in that audience, no matter who brought them there or who was responsible for getting them there. I feel honored, as do all of the other speakers and vendors and MCs and volunteers and on, how they all feel that way, because it is an honor when parents, guardians, teachers, administrators, neighbors entrust us to help pour some of the water of knowledge over the dry sponges known as youth, because they haven't lived a lot of what we have. And you can't just let anybody into your child's head. And so I take it very seriously, to be able to impart some ideas and hopefully a little bit of knowledge simply from the experiences that I lived and the people that did exactly for me what I am attempting to do for others.
Loren, I want to thank you for being on the show. You've had some terrific insights, but your story is just terrific. And I would encourage any listeners to take a look at what Loren is doing. I think that, what you're doing is terrific, man. And I'd love to support in any way I can.
Thank you so very much. And thank you for this opportunity to share with your listenership, just the opportunity known as the Power of We Symposium. Because, if people don't know, if they're not aware of an opportunity, how then can we ask them to be responsible for contributing to an opportunity? So I thank you from the bottom of my spirit.
Everybody else, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the interview and found useful ideas about things you can do with your kids. Be sure to check the show notes at www.choosethenickel.com for links to names, books, and other resources we discussed in today's show. Also, please subscribe to our newsletter and visit our contact page where you can give us feedback. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and YouTube, and you can follow Choose the Nickel on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We invite you to share Choose the Nickel with your friends and join us in our quest to teach kids financial freedom.